I'm doing this purely for educational purposes, I really do swear. Hi guys, it's Maya here, and today I am doing my 1-year post-op breast augmentation update video. So back in May of 2019, I had my breast augmentation with Dr. Eugenberg at the Fairmont Royal York Hotel with the Toronto Cosmetic Surgery Institute. I had 400cc silicone implants put in through an inframammary incision under the muscle. So technically it's been around 14 months, I would say, but I'm just gonna say 1 year just because it looks a lot cleaner in the title, and it's pretty much the same results that I had from 2 months ago. There's really not much of a difference. So this is my 1-year post-op video. Overall, I have to say that I don't have any complaints or complications that I know of. Everything has gone super smooth with my recovery. The only thing that I would note as an imperfection is that the left breast is a little bit lower than the right breast, which is very common in cisgender biological women anyways. And so I don't really mind, but it is something that I notice. And I think that's a result of me being right-handed. So the muscle over this pectoral is a lot more developed than the left side. So that makes sense why it wasn't able to drop as much on this side, but it's not a huge difference. It's pretty minor. I also chose to get these scars underneath my breast fold because it was one of the least invasive ways to get the breast augmentation and had a smooth recovery time. So that's why I chose to get it under the fold. I will say that part of me wishes I didn't have the scar there because you can do a really cute under boob moment if you want. If you don't have the scar, I mean, you can do it regardless. It really doesn't matter at the end of the day. But I tend to be a little bit more self-conscious of my scars showing just because it does imply that I've had surgery, which I don't always want people knowing my business, you know? I think there's a lot of negative connotation when it comes to breast augmentation, specifically because for cisgender women, it's often considered a cosmetic surgery unless they're getting reconstruction or they've had breast cancer or something like that. But otherwise, it's considered largely cosmetic and associated with vanity, unfortunately. But as a transgender woman myself, I largely associated it with part of my transition. Unfortunately, through hormone replacement therapy, I was not able to develop breasts that I thought would have been a natural size for me. There was hardly any breast fat development at all. I even underwent a different kind of hormone therapy with cyproterone and still didn't really experience any growth from that. So I felt like I was just kind of like very flat chested, and on top of that I do have a slightly broader rib cage and chest than the average cisgender woman. So whenever I would wear a bikini top or a bathing suit or a bra, it just wouldn't look super natural. It was just so flat, and I felt like it was kind of a clockable moment for me, maybe. I also just didn't feel very feminine. At the end of the day, the only person looking at my naked body is me, and I honestly felt like if I was decapitated and just my body was being examined, it would not look very feminine. So part of my transition was to have slightly larger breasts and also to have the gender reassignment surgery. So those were my two main things that I felt like I needed to do in order to transition. It's different for everyone, but that was my experience, and I wanted to alleviate some of my dysphoria. I know that there are many flat-chested women who are cisgender as well. However, you were born a cisgender female and no one is questioning your identity. You're not questioning your identity. So at the end of the day, I felt like I had more motivation to get a breast augmentation for medical purposes, not necessarily to be conflated with cosmetic reasons. However, there is obviously the cosmetic factor as well, which I will not deny. It is kind of a cosmetic procedure in general. I'm pretty happy with the results. I do find that the biggest struggle that I have since having the breast augmentation is finding what clothes work for me now. I used to have that very tall, slender look, and since I was flat-chested, I could get away with wearing a little bit of a baggier top and having that thin, almost, I don't want to like toot my own horn, but almost like model-like look where you have that kind of gaunt look because the fabric kind of drapes over you. Whereas having a breast augmentation, I now have this silhouette of breasts, and so when I wear something baggy, it tends to just make me look larger some of the time. So finding new clothes that work for me has been kind of a struggle. I haven't dedicated too much time to shopping, but I did recently purchase a bunch of new bras, and the bra size that I am now is a 34D. I never intended to go for a cup size. That was never my goal. I just wanted a moderate sized chest that would match my frame. So 34D may sound really large to some people, especially if you're shorter and have a smaller frame, but on my frame it actually looks pretty natural in terms of size. So it just goes to show that if you're like 5'9" or taller, you can go for a larger size because it's not going to look as large on your frame necessarily. Personally, I do think that I could have gotten away with getting a bit of a smaller size, not because I think they're too large, but I wouldn't have minded still having a fairly small chest, like at least a C cup or a B maybe. But the person that was doing my consultation, she said that the number one complaint that girls have after breast augmentation is that they wish they had gone bigger. I don't know if she was necessarily considering that I was a trans woman and I just wanted boobs, period, not big boobs. So I don't know if she was considering that. She did know that I was transgender because it was something we communicated about, but I definitely think that she looked at me as if I was cisgender and gave me that opinion in that way because I wasn't necessarily someone who just wanted to go big or go home, you know. That being said, I am really happy with the results and how they turned out. I will say that I do notice it is a little more unnatural looking, specifically for trans women to get implants, because we do have oftentimes less tissue to work with from the beginning. So like I said, I was so flat chested. So I did understand that getting implants, especially 400 cc's, they would have a little bit less of a realistic result compared to a cisgender woman who already had more to work with. And that is just for the simple reason that my chest is a little bit wider and much flatter. So you're going to kind of have the implant shape as the main shape of your breast. However, I did get under the muscle, so it would have more of a sloped effect rather than just like a shelf, if that makes sense. So I know I've talked a lot about my breasts, but I'll give you a little preview in a full coverage bra for YouTube's sake and just let you guys see what the results look like from that perspective. So obviously I do have a bit of a sunburn from when I went to the beach a few weeks ago. I know it's still red, but that's slowly going away. But as you guys can see, they look pretty good, at least in my opinion. I'll try to back up a little bit and give you guys the full scope. I'm really happy with how they turned out. I think that all things considered, considering I was completely flat, I was like a AA or like whatever the lightest size is, hardly even that, to go from that to a D cup, I think they look pretty good, pretty natural. I will say that I do prefer the way that they look in bras, in clothes and everything more so than before. Like wearing a bikini top is awesome now. I don't feel like I have dysphoria in terms of my breast area, so that is super awesome. However, I do think that they look less realistic when they're not in like a structured top, if that makes sense, but it's totally fine, and they're not super fake looking either, which I really appreciate. But they're not like, there's not like a cleavage moment when I take the bra off, if that makes sense. And honestly, a lot of cisgender women, they have breasts that are pretty far apart, and like no one has natural cleavage like this without wearing a bra, you know? Like that would look super weird if your boobs were just constantly like this, even when you were like fully naked. So we just have to like reassure ourselves what reality is versus what sometimes social media and the media can make you think boobs are supposed to look like. But yeah. I'm doing this purely for educational purposes. I really do swear. I think that it's important, especially for trans women, to share their experience on this stuff because the process can be a little bit different than if you are a cisgender woman. And I think that one of the things that trans women are worried about is looking like their boobs are bolted on, as a lot of negative people say. And I would say that getting under the muscle really helps with that. Also, just making sure that your implants aren't super small in terms of diameter and then super high profile. So my profile was just a moderate profile. I didn't want them to stick out a lot because if you have really perky boobs that stick out, then obviously they're going to look a bit more fake. And be a little bit more clockable. So something I was worried about is, well, as a trans woman, I want to feel as authentic as possible. And if everyone is like ogling at the fact that I have big fake boobs, I just thought it would bring more attention to my transition and be even more dysphoric. But I'm really happy with how they turned out. I think it's like a decent size. It's definitely the biggest I would ever consider going. The other thing to consider is that breast implants are only really meant to last for 10 years and then you get them replaced. That's another reason why I went with the inframammary incision, because I wanted to protect my nerves as much as possible, and I knew that this was a quick and easy way for surgeons to remove the implants and replace them. Or if you're getting explanted, it's also an easy way for them to do that versus going through the armpit or going through the nipple incision, because I was just worried about losing my nerves and my feeling in my nipples and stuff like that. So for me, the scars underneath were a small price to pay. One thing I do want to touch in is this left breast, the one that's a little bit lower. It sometimes will have like an ache if I'm laying a certain way. Maybe it's just pushing on my scar or something. I'm really not sure, but it's not often and it's not very noticeable. Like on the pain scale, it's like 0.5, like it's nothing. But I just wanted to note that because you do have an awareness of the fact you have a breast implant. At least I do, even a year later. I don't think about it all the time, and it's not something that comes up in my everyday life, but I am sometimes reminded of it when I'm doing certain things, such as push-ups or any kind of upper body workout. You can feel your muscles kind of like pushing the boobs to the sides. So I can do like a boob dance where I'm like, do you see that? Maybe that's TMI, but it's just like part of the reality of having under the muscle breasts, which is fine. Like, I don't mind. I think it's kind of funny. It's not something that like you can control necessarily if you are like on your hands and you are dealing with like some kind of exercise in that motion or certain positions. But yeah, time to put these girls away. So I guess my closing remarks are that I had a great experience. The recovery period was 2 weeks. It was rough because I couldn't really raise my arms at that time, so I needed a lot of assistance. But after that period of time, the recovery was really awesome. There was not a lot of complications, and the surgery itself was actually done in under a half hour, if you can believe that. Surgeries these days are so streamlined. Those doctors/surgeons must be making bank, I must say. Also, people are going to ask me the cost. It's inevitable. It cost just over $10,000 CAD, and that's pretty expensive considering that you can go to countries like Thailand, like places in South America, and get the surgery for a lot cheaper. However, I just wanted to get my first surgery for my transition in my home province, in my city, to stay close to home, just because I was afraid if anything happened, I wanted to be near family. So that was important to me, and I wanted to go with a board certified plastic surgeon, not someone that just offered the surgery willy-nilly. I wanted to make sure I was following all the right pathways for me just to feel safe, but those other avenues can definitely work for other people. I've heard of people going to Colombia to get breast augmentations, or Thailand, and it's worked for them. I'm not going to advocate for that because that's not my experience, but I had a good experience doing it in Toronto. I hope you guys found this video educational and informational. If you had any questions about the breast augmentation process, why did I choose silicone? I chose it because at the end of the day, it does have a less firm touch than saline. And saline is already encased in silicone, so you can't really avoid the silicone being in your body. So I just figured I might as well go for the more natural feel, the more natural squishy feel. That was my thought process. And saline, although it is a solution found in your body, so if it leaks, it's not going to be the end of the world, it is more prone to leakage because they do have to cap off the implant after they fill it once it's inside of your breast area. So for me, I just felt like the silicone was a more all-in-one package, and that is why I chose it. Obviously, do all your own research. Make sure you're aware of breast implant illness and other side effects like capsular contracture and stuff, just so you know what you're getting into. I did all that research myself and went into it thinking, well, this is something that I'm going to wonder about probably for my whole life if I don't get it done. And so I just felt like I needed to satisfy that need and also to alleviate alleviate my dysphoria. Bra shopping is awesome now. So is bikini shopping. It's all awesome, and I feel like I finally fit in when I'm going to those places and buying those clothing. It makes sense now. So I'm really happy with the experience, and I thank everyone who supported me on this journey because I could not have done it without you guys, literally. I also want to give a big shout out to my Patreon supporters. Thank you so much. I wouldn't be able to create as much content as I am for you guys without my Patreon supporters. If you guys want to see more instant updates on my life and content, go follow me on Instagram or Twitter. And also don't be afraid to comment, rate, subscribe if you want to see more videos. And I will see you guys next time. Take care. Bye.